Assalamu alaikum, dear brothers and sisters. I'm your host, Mohamed. Welcome to another episode of They Ask You, brought to you by Blessed Tree Media. Today's episode is titled The Qibla of the Heart, where we discuss the virtues of ziyarat, especially the ziyarat of Imam Hussein and its effects on us. The ziyarat of Imam Hussein is truly an enlightening experience that all of us for this year, and we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants us the opportunity to go on this blessed journey. Honoring us currently from New Jersey is a scholar who needs no introduction. He has been serving the Jafri Khoja Shia community of Toronto for over 2 decades as their resident alim and as one of the senior scholars of the Shia community in North America. None other than Sayyid Muhammad Akhtar Rizvi, who will be helping us delve further into this topic. We are also blessed to have with us our special community guest, Sister Raziya Dhirani, joining us from Najaf. Sister Raziya has had an enlightening personal experience with ziyarat and the miracles of the Ahlul Bayt. Inshallah, she'll shed further light on her unique experience during the course of this episode. Respected Sayyid Rizvi, Sister Raziya, Salamu Alaikum. It truly is an honor to have you both here with us, and I'm sure our audience are also keen to hear from both your insights and your personal experience. But before we start, I'd like to remind the audience that you can drop any burning questions that you may have for our guests just using the chat box below. You can find Blessed Tree Media on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Please do leave any comments, questions, stories, or reflections that you have on any of these social media pages. Also, if you didn't manage to tune into last week's episode, you can catch it on YouTube on our channel, Blessed Tree Media. So, starting off with you, Sayed, I'd like to ask you our first question to kickstart. So in Shiaism, we talk about ziyarat, and it's become a really, alhamdulillah, a really good routine for us to go to ziyarat, and also at the end of a majlis, end of programs, we do ziyarat. But I think the question that plays on our mind is, what does ziyarat mean, and what's its position in Shiaism, if you don't mind?
When it comes to the concept of ziyarat, literally the word ziyarat means just visitation. So, in our common, conversation, we can even say, Inshallah, I will come for your ziyarat tomorrow, which is to come and visit you. But of course, when we use this term ziyarat in the technical meaning in our religious, context, it refers to visitation to a religious figure, whether they are alive, or to visit their grave or their shrine after their death. And that is where how this term is used. Now in Shia Islam, ziyarat falls within the orbit, if I may use the term, or a parameter of bila and love for the Ahlul Bayt. We know that the love for the Prophet and his family is part of the divine injunction in the Quran. And one of the manifestation of that love, we can't just say, okay, we love the Ahlul Bayt and that's the end of the story. There has to be some expression of that love. And one way of expressing that love is to go and visit them if they are alive and we can see them. Or if not, then at least we can go to the places where they lived or they were buried in order to feel that spiritual connection with them. And that is the phenomenon of ziyarat, whether we go to the shrines, whether it's in Medina or Karbala or Najaf or Mashhad or Qazimain or Samarra, or we recite the ziyarat from far, wherever we are. And this is where we have to realize that it's not just something that we as devotees of the faith would like to do this. We also see that our imams have themselves emphasized on this point. You will see in the literature that we have from the ziyarat, most of them actually come from the imams themselves. And this is where we see the spatial attention has been given from the early days. Even if you look at the compilation of the books on hadith, there was a specific focus on compiling dua and ziyarah. And therefore, we see that in the Shi'i madhab, ziyarat is not only something okay or acceptable, it is something which is highly recommended. And and the reason why this ritual of ziyarat has importance in Shia Islam is that it's not just simple visitation to the place. It's not like you're going on a vacation, and you go and see places and come back. It has an impact on the visitor. When they come back, they become hopefully, changed individuals. And if it was not for the impact of the ziyarat on the Shias themselves, why would people like Mutawakkil in the past and Saddam in our time prevent Shias for going from ziyarat of Arba'in, for example? It means that, even in the eyes of those who were enemies of the Ahlul Bayt, this phenomenon of ziyarat had a strong impact. And they felt, in a way, threatened with it. And this is where I think we have to look at the ziyarah from that perspective also, that the impact it has on the reformation for for the Shias individually and collectively, becoming better people. And that is why we see this aggressive, action by some of the hearted, enemies of the Ahlul Bayt.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing. Of course, inshallah, like I said before, we can all have the opportunity to go to Ziyarat and have this life-changing experience. Inshallah, that all happens for all of us. And, that moves me on to my next question, actually. Unfortunately, there are some people who have come to have doubts about the different types of Ziyarat in our narrations, due to being affected by certain form of rhetoric. What Ziyarats do our narrations emphasize upon, would you say?
Well, as far as we talked about the general idea of ziyarat, and it covers a very wide range. We are talking about even the ziyarat of Baytullah, the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We talk about even if we had the opportunity and we are sure about the ziyarat of the shrines of even the Anbiya, or the imams and the salaha, those who were the righteous ones, especially those who gave their lives for the for our faith and our cause. That's why, for example, when you go to ziyarat of Amir al-Mu'mineen, you also go and visit the shrine of Kumail bin Ziyad, who was killed just because he loved Ali. Or, for example, when you go to Sham, you also try and see if you can go to Ziyarat of Hujr bin Adi. So they are not imams for us, but these are the people who gave their lives for the cause of faith. And so, you know, but of course, when it comes to the ziyarat of the imam, especially Imam Hussein alayhi salam, you will see that there is a uh, greater emphasis put on that, especially when it comes to the ziyarat of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Means you just look at a cursory, glance at the content of the section on ziyarat of Mafatihul Jinnah, a very common book used by the Shias. You will see that for all the Masumin, you have one ziyarat for their time, or when you go and visit the shrine. But you will see for Imam Hussein alayhi salam, you have a whole list there. First Rajab, there is a ziyarat for him. 15th Rajab, there is a ziyarat for him. 15th Sha'ban, there is a ziyarat for him. Layal al-Qadr, the nights of Qadr, the day of Eid al-Fitr, the day of Eid al-Adha, the day of Arafah. These are the days which are historically not connected to Imam Hussain. Yet we are told to remember him and do the ziyarat. And then we come to the ziyarat of the day of Ashura, and then the ziyarat of Arba'in, which are obviously connected to the incidents, the historical, events uh, regarding Imam Hussain alayhi salam. And so, among all these, the most famous ziyarat are of course the ziyarat of Ashura and ziyarat of Arba'in, and very common one is the ziyarat of Warif or ziyarat of Warif, which is recited by Shias on a global level at least once a week on Thursday night. Although there is no specific narration that I would have seen about that Thursday night every night, but it is, alhamdulillah, a good tradition. And this is where, and this is a living tradition among Muslims, irrespective of their cultural background, ethnic background, linguistic background. Everywhere, these things are very common. And so now, when we talk about these, all doubts, being raised about it, see, there is a lot to say about it, but I'll say one thing that um, you need to seek the guidance of those who are really steeped into the literature of hadith of the Ahlul Bayt. Sometimes you need to be submerged in that to an extent that you can then have this zawq, or the sense of knowing that I am familiar with the speech or the wordings of the Masoom, where you can sometimes you don't even need to go and look for narration and sanad. If you look at, for example, Ziyarat Jamia of our 10th Imam, it's a very extensive ziyarat, and a scholar like Ayatollah um, Jawadi Amuli in Qom makes a very important point. He says that anybody who has a test of this kalam and the speech of the Ma'sumin, when they read Ziyarat Jamia, they would know that this cannot be composed by a non-Ma'sum individual. It is unlikely, it is almost impossible for a non-Ma'sum to compose, the literature like that. So he says we don't even have to go look at the sanad of it. Just study miss the chain of narrator. Just look at the content, and it speaks out very clearly that this is from Ma'sum. And so I think, if we keep that in mind, um, because the content would be very much missed. Some people have issues with lesser ziyarat Ashura, not the whole ziyarat. If you look at even those who are kind of doubters or critiques of that, they would not dare reject this ziyarat entirely. They will say, oh, there is a portion there which seems to have been inserted later on. But even that portion that you consider to be inserted later on, you will be able to see similar wordings or similar theme in other ziyarat which have come from the imams, and they are beyond any shadow of doubt about the authenticity. And so, you look at the overall, theme of the ziyarat, and they are in line with the teachings of the Quran and with the other ziyarat that we have from the Masumi. Now, let me conclude. I don't want to prolong this much, but one more comment, that those who doubt, for example, Ziyarat Ashura, and they say this one line or two lines have been inserted later on because they go to, let's say, earliest manuscript of the 5th century of Hijrah. Well, we don't have the manuscripts of before it, so we don't really have a full picture what happened. You see, when you say some of these lines, the one or two lines have been inserted later on, which are not there in the 5th century's manuscripts, there is also a possibility that maybe during those days, the early days, because of taqiyya, even those who were copying these, ziyarat by hand would do taqiyya and omit some of these lines. So maybe there was an omission done earlier, which was then corrected by adding these. And you cannot discount that possibility, because even these earlier manuscripts that you see now, they have this question about this one or two lines. You will see there are some manuscripts where even other lines have been blocked out with black ink. Why would they do that? other than the issue of taqiyya. Means they were living in an environment probably at a time where, exposing these material to others would put their life in danger. And so this is a point to keep in mind that, it's not just one dimension of these manuscripts, because that has become the basis of what the critics say about Ziyarat-e-Ashura.
Ahsan, thank you very much, Sheikh, for that answer. I really enjoyed that answer actually because it sort of wakes you up to the just like the beauty of ziyarat. You know that people do try to nitpick about it, but most of it is very beautiful, and we know that it all is very beautiful, and we have to always give a reason why things might be that way. Thank you very much, Sheikh. I am going to move on to Sister Razia now and ask her a couple of questions. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Razia. How are you?
Walaikum salam. I'm doing good. And yourself?
I'm doing good, alhamdulillah. Thank you for asking. So, I guess my first question to you, and I think this is a question I'm really eager to find the answer to, and I'm sure a lot of our audience will be. But just for some background, when we mention, the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam and the special virtues and the spiritual position that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them, we find that they have the power to sometimes invite people for their ziyarat in a miraculous way. Razia Auntie, I know you had a special experience related to Bibi Zainab alayhi salam. Would you please enlighten us all with your personal experience, if you will?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I used to go to Ziyarat of Sayyid Zainab almost every week or every month. So during the time of war, I could not go for Ziyarat. And I was very sad and went to sleep. And I had a dream. In my dream, I see I'm in the haram of Sayyid Zainab. Sayyid Zainab comes out of the Zuri. She was wearing green clothes and I could not see her face. She tells me, look at my haram, it's all empty. I need the chairs for people to sit on and I need white material. There is all around ponds of water. So I got really scared and I woke up. So I didn't know what to do. So I thought said Sistani's office to ask them what should I do. So one of the sheikh talked to the Sayyid and Sayyid said it was wajib for me to go to Damascus. At that time there was war going on. It was very difficult to go to Damascus. My husband Ali Asghar there was a protocol that we had to have 8 people to go ziyarat for Sayyid Zainab. Alhamdulillah, my husband got 8 zawars and we went via Beirut. From Beirut to Damascus, while we were going, the border patrol chained our bus. They would not let us go. After a long struggle, we managed to go to Sayyid Zainab. We reached around 2 o'clock in the morning and we entered the hotel of Safir. I see the walls all around Sayyid Zainab and I was really sad to see what had happened. So I asked one of the question to the receptionist why they have built this wall. I was told that to save her from the ISIS. So after registration and they had given us the room, and I asked what time they open the haram. They told me they open at 4 a.m. and closes at 6 a.m. So it was 2 o'clock, so we decided we leave at 3:30 to go to the haram of Sayyid Zainab. When we left, we could see the smokes in the sky. We can hear the gun firing. We didn't know what was happening. There was no human beings. It was like a ghost town. When I entered the haram of Sayyid Zainab, I could not believe it that I was there. So we were only 18 people in the haram for namaz at Jamaat. After namaz, I asked the Khadim and I explained him about my dream. Khadim was so shocked and amazed, he didn't know what to tell me. He said, yes, we do need chairs for the people to sit. I said, what about the white material? She tells me there's ponds of water all around her. And she has asked me to bring material. I brought 14 liters of material. So I asked him, can you open the zari for me? He says he's not allowed to open the zari for 3 days. After 3 days, he can put the material. I said, are you sure? Because sometimes you know what happens, right? I said, are you sure you're going to do that? He said, yes, I will. And I never dreamt that I would go back in 3 weeks' time. So I told him, I'm going to come back in 3 weeks' time to see whether you have done it or not. Unfortunately, I managed to go after 3 weeks. When I went to talk to him, he said there was a little stream of water coming in Hazari, and they put the white material and they fixed it. That was what happened.
Wow. Wow, that's an amazing story, and I got lost in your words, Sister Raziya. That's so beautiful, and inshallah we can all, if one day we can have an experience, a dream like this, and I'm so glad you managed to fulfill what Bibi Zainab asked of you. And like on this, the feelings that you must have been going through were probably so overwhelming. So upon arriving and seeing the special honor from Sayyidah Zainab, for you, how did that feel?
I was so emotional. I couldn't believe I was in her haram. I cried all the time. It was very, very sad moment. And every namaz, there was a shuhadas were brought for the farewell to Sayyida Zainab. One day there were 8 shuhadas under the age of 25.
Wow. Absolutely amazing. That it's just inshallah we all get to go to ziyarat of, and it's just amazing that experience that you had. Really overwhelming, and I'm sure our audience watching feels the exact same way. And if you guys have any experiences, please do leave us a comment on our social media. But thank you so much, Sister Razia. Thank you so much, Sayyid. But for now, we will stop for a short break. But please don't go anywhere yet. We'll be right back for part two of today's episode titled The Qibla of the Hearts. So please do stay tuned. Wassalam.
Today, access to clean and safe water is still not available in every part of the world. 1 in 10 people don't have access to water close to home. A child dies every 2 minutes due to dirty water. Your donations have been providing life-saving access to water for millions of people around the world. Help us give vulnerable communities access to water. Donate to our Ali Asghar Water Appeal today and help provide clean and safe water to families around the world.
Salam and welcome back to part two of our show, They Ask You, where we'll be discussing the virtues of ziyarat and its effects on our soul, as well as being enlightened by the personal experience from the community. As always, please do give us a like, comment, and share on all our social media pages. So, coming swiftly back to you, Sayed, I'm sure, like the rest of us, you found Sister Razia's story, beautiful and enlightening. But from the perspective of a scholar, how would you comment on Sister Razia's experience?
Well, first of all, I would commend her for this opportunity. Not everybody gets that. And what can I say? It's a very personal experience. Other than, Barakallah feek. May Allah bless you and give you more tawfiq to serve um, the shrines and even help the zawar in the ziyarat. I've been told about you that Many, khuddam of the harams in Iraq and Syria, they know you as a lady who used to visit us when people were not visiting us. So you are known as somebody who was there, very insistent on the opportunity to go ziyarat and even to take the mu'mineen with you. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and give you long life with health to continue this service that you have.
Inshallah, inshallah. And have you met anyone else that's had similar experiences to Sister Razia before? Or
Well, it's difficult to say personally. No, we have, we have stories from different individuals, some of the ulama, where they actually see the response of whatever they are communicating about with the masoom or the shaheed. So this is not something out of the realm of possibility. No, it can happen. It has happened, and inshallah, you know, the, you see, many people actually don't want to discuss that. It's kind of a very personal thing, and so I'm sure it's happening to many people, but we hear some of them.
of course. Well, thank you, Sister Razia, for that experience. And it's amazing you had this very rare opportunity. And inshallah, you get to go to many more ziyarats. And like Sayyid said, many more years to come, inshallah. So just moving on to our next question. We know there are many, many benefits and virtues of the ziyarats of Ahlul Bayt. What would you say are the specific ones?
Um, we have many hadiths and even the statement from great ulama who have talked about the benefits of ziyarat of Ahlul Bayt, especially Imam Hussein alayhi salam. But what I would like to summarize is by saying that there is a level of this dunya, and then there is a level or a perspective of the akhirah, the hereafter. In this world, I think since visitation or ziyarat is based on love and wila for the Ahlul Bayt, there are two impacts definitely on the zahir and the visitor, provided they do ziyarat with awareness and understanding. See, that's an important point. Number one is that when they do the ziyarat, their aqidah and faith and their iman becomes stronger. They come to know more about the faith. They come to know especially more about the status and the position of the imam. If they just take the example of ziyarat waris, which is the most commonly read ziyarat by the Shia world. Even if you just concentrate on the words where you say to Imam Hussein alayhi salam that I bear witness, كنت نورا في الأصلاب الشامخة والأرحام المطهرة. O Hussein, I bear witness that you were a nur, you were a light in the aslab shamikha, in the loins of the honored, forefathers, and in the wombs of the pure mothers. Just reflect on that. What does it mean? You're talking about this concept of the creation of the nur of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, long before they even come to this dunya. Many people don't even know much about it, and some of them would be surprised. Oh, this is our aqidah. You recite the ziyarah. The problem, you just hear it and that's it. Reflect on the words, what you are saying. That Hussein, I testify that you were the nur from Adam to Ali in the loins of this honorable fathers, and in the wombs from Hawa to Fatima to Zahra salawatullah alayhi. These were all pure wombs. And then which was not ever touched with impurity of any kind. And this is where your aqidah becomes stronger. Even ziyarat jami'ah especially is a literature for understanding imamah and the status and position of the imamah. So that's the first thing. the aqidah becomes stronger. Number two, ziyarat by itself, it is done with understanding, will have an impact on reforming the character of the za'ir, of the visitor. Because, what is the sense of ziyarat? It's not just going in for a vacation or sightseeing a historical, sites. You actually are going because of that love and devotion that you have towards the Ahlul Bayt. And love demands that you should then try to follow them, look at their preferences, what do they like, what they dislike, and mold your own character accordingly. So this whole issue of reformation within of our own character is an important, a second, impact in the life of the Zair. Especially, for example, there is one ziyarat from, I think it's 15th of Rajab or 1st Rajab, where you are saying to Imam Hussein alayhi salam that, oh Hussein, I was not there. I was not even born at that time when you called for help on the day of Ashura. But now I'm responding to you. My eyes, my ears, my hands, my skin, my whole, being is now responding to you. What does that mean? How do you respond to the call of Imam Hussein now after centuries? By living by the teachings and the values for, for values that Hussein sacrificed everything for it. And so these words of ziyarat, they have really an impact. I'll borrow a term from Christianity. A true Zair becomes a newborn Muslim in Shia when he comes back from the ziyarat. And so this is as far as the impact in this dunya is concerned. In Akhirah, of course, the ziyarat itself done with sincerity um, makes the visitor worthy of receiving the shafa'at and intercession of the Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt on the day of Judgment, and in the time between death and the day of resurrection. And
Ahsan.
so, yeah, these are the two dimensions I just wanted to, give it in a broader perspective.
Thank you very much for that. No, completely. And of course, when we are thinking doing ziyarah, it's amazing that it benefits not just us in this dunya, but also the akhirah. So it's beneficial just for both, which is amazing. And I think what your answer does move me nicely on to my next question is when we are discussing ziyarat, we find that there are so many ziyarat of Imam Hussein mentioned in books of du'as and different ziyarat books. What position does the Ziyarat of Imam Hussein have in Islam that we just find that people's hearts are being pulled to him in this beautiful way?
Well, you see, the greatness of the sacrifice Imam Hussein alayhi salam naturally stimulates that, pull towards him. That sacrifice has this magnetic power that even after centuries, people are pulled towards Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And this is reflected by the phenomenon of ziyarat that we have. And even the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam predicted this. He has a very famous hadith where he says, إن لقتل الحسين حرارة في قلوب المؤمنين لا تبرد أبدا. That in this martyrdom of Hussein ibn Ali, there is a warmth in the hearts of the believers which will never cool off. And so that special attachment is there. And that's why you will see that, as I mentioned earlier, that there is ziyarat for all the imams, single ones. But when it comes to Hussein, they have multiple ziyarat, have different occasions, even those which are not historically related to him, yet you have a ziyarat on that day. And this is because of the emphasis that the imams themselves have put, the imams who came later on. And maybe a reason behind that would be that the level of sacrifice that Imam Hussein alayhi salam presented to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for survival of Islam was of an unprecedented level, never seen, um, before or after it. And so, basically, we see, for example, I would put it in context of an ayat from Quran, um, where everyone goes through a challenge, but all the challenges, put came together on the day of Ashura on Hussein. You talk about hunger and thirst. You talk about social instability and insecurity. Uh, you look at physical injury, loss of wealth, loss of life, loss of dear ones, the young and the old. People go through these challenges at different times in different aspects of it. But when it came to Hussein ibn Ali on the day of Ashura, all these things came together, and he stood his ground. It's amazing that you have a people, individual like Hamid bin Muslim, the narrator from Yazidi forces, who was there give a report of what was going on. He says that I was looking at the face of Hussein ibn Ali, and the more martyrdoms happen, the closer it comes to the time of the late afternoon where he became Shaheed. He says, I saw that the glow on his face was becoming more bright and bright. And so, indeed, Allah has given him that status. And people from all different faiths and backgrounds are, attracted towards that spirit of sacrifice.
Hassan, thank you very much. And I was just thinking as you were talking, you've seen this, when you see everyone has that same emotion for Imam Hussein and everything that he's been through. And I think it's that which brings us all closer to Ziyarat of Imam Hussein in this beautiful way. Thank you very much, Sayyid, for your enlightening answers. We are going to now switch back to Sister Razia and ask her a few more questions. Salam, welcome back, Sister Razia. So I would like to ask you, in this special ziyarah that you had of Sham, uh, what special, I'm sure we're all curious to know what special dua you did and what special hajat you wished for, so we can, inshallah, do the same for all our trials and tribulations, and inshallah, when we want to go to ziyarat one day.
The, I prayed for the war to end in Damascus. All the Shias in the world are suffering, and I prayed to Allah to give our youths and the children ability to get connected and be in the army of Imam Sahib Zaman.
Awesome, thank you very much. And we all know that you're currently in Najaf at the moment. You're performing ziyarat of Imam Ali alayhi salam, and then going to the land of Karbala to perform the ziyarat of Imam Hussein and the martyrs of Karbala. MashaAllah, that must be so amazing for you. Um, but for our parents and for our youth that are watching today, what advice would you give to those parents who haven't brought their children for ziyarat, and to the youth who have not until now visited the Ahlul Bayt in ziyarat?
I had talked to some of the youths who had been with me for Ziyarat of Imam Hussein, and they told me that our parents used to take us to the mosque on regular basis, but we did not understand what was happening and how to get connected. After coming to Ziyarat, they got connected to Imam Hussein and all the Ahlul Bayt, and they really tried to pass the messages to their friends to come over for the Ziyarat of Imam Hussein.
Wow, awesome. That's very beautiful, and it's great to see you inspiring the youth that you're with, that can share with their friends to come over to Ziyarat and to have this life-changing experience, as you said. Thank you very much, Sister Razia, for your answers. I really appreciate that. We are going to go back for a final question for Sheikh, if I can switch back to Sheikh. Um, Salam Sayyid. If, for a last question for you, when we think about the concepts and the contents in du'as and ziyarats, uh, we have so many lessons we can learn. What would you say, what messages can we deduce from ziyarat?
talk about ziyarah, especially, a person can just go for visitation, is in a sense just be there and see the zari and the shrine, and on a spiritual level, the person can feel it. But reciting the ziyarat, whether you are there at the shrine or far away in your own town or country, the wording is given by the Masumin who came later on. Like Ziyarat al-Waris is from Imam Ja'far Sadiq alayhi salam, narrated by his companion by the name of Safwan al-Jamal. And just looking at the wordings is very important. It's not from an alim, a scholar, it is from a Ma'asum Imam. And he's teaching us that when you address Hussein, you would like to acknowledge his achievements. And what do you do there? Imam is saying, say, أشهد أنك قد أقمت الصلاة وآتيت الزكاة وأمرت بالمعروف ونهيت عن المنكر وأطعت الله ورسوله حتى أتاك اليقين. This phrase of ziyarat, what is that we recite all the time? Just think about it. You are counting, the achievements of Imam Hussein, and you're saying, "Oh Hussein, you established the prayer. You even in that difficult moment, you did namaz jamaat on the day of Zohra of Ashura. You paid charity. Salat and zakat is there. And I take these words, salat and zakat, not as a fiqhi term here. I take it as a symbol for the rights of Allah and the rights of the people. So that's the message we're getting, that this is what we have to do. We to fulfill the rights of Allah as well as huququn nas, the rights of the people. And then amarta bil ma'ruf wa nahita anil munkar. You were bidding the good and forbidding the evil. This is a social responsibility of every, Za'ir of Hussein, that in their own circumstances, in their own circles, according to their own ability, they have to do Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi al Munkar, to promote the good in the society and to prevent the evil in the society. And then the sixth Imam says, summarize his achievements by saying, أطعت الله ورسوله حتى أتاك اليقين. Basically, O Hussein, in short, you obeyed Allah and His Messenger till the last moment of your life, till death came to you. And so this actually summarizes everything for us. We have to think about Allah's rights, people's rights, right of the community and the society upon us. What is our role here? Because even the mission of Imam Hussein was based on the principle of al-amr bil ma'ruf and al-nahy anil munkar. And then coming to the words, which some of these critics of the ziyarat don't like, la'an Allah, where you say, on those who killed you and those who were unjust to you. And not only that, even those who came centuries after you but hear about Karbala and they are okay with what happened to you. This is a very strong statement that when we talk about bila and love for the Ahlul Bayt, there can be no soft corner for the enemies of our heart. And so this tawalla and tabarra, or tawalli and tabarra, go hand in hand. And these are the messages which are reinforced again and again through the ziyarat that we have of Imam Hussein.
Son, thank you for that. It's truly, hearing the meaning of a ziyarat, it's one thing, but understanding it and, like how we spoke about before, impacting it into our lives is something else that it's just takes it to a whole new level. And inshallah, we can all aim to achieve that. So, unfortunately, at this point, we have come to an end to our show. But I would like to thank Sayyid Muhammad Akhtar Rizvi, and Sister Raziya Dhirani. Thank you so much for gracing us and enlightening us with your precious time, your knowledge, and your experience. I'm sure the audience, as well as I, have all taken away a lot from this interesting episode. And inshallah, the knowledge we have picked up will have a profound impact on our daily lives. We are also grateful for Ahlul Bayt TV and the rest of the hard-working team behind the scenes for facilitating this live show. And last, but by no means least, I would like to thank you, the viewers, for dedicating your Sunday afternoon and tuning in to the show and also leaving some comments and stories for us. Jazakumullah khair to all of you. If you like today's episode, fear not. Inshallah, we will have another one lined up for you next week. So please tune in for that at 4 p.m. UK time on Blessed Tree Media YouTube channel. You'll also be able to join in on Zoom in order to join in on the live discussion. So please don't miss out. We will be joined by Sheikh Vinay Kateya from Toronto, who will be discussing Ziyarta Ashura and the broader question of La'ana. As always, please do follow us on social media on Instagram, Facebook, and on YouTube to see any shows or upcoming events, all at Blessed Tree Media. So do give us a like, comment, and share. This is Mohamed Abbas Kirmani, and this is Blessed Tree Media, bidding you all farewell. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Hussein.